morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. Happy Monday. Yes, December 4th. On the 4th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree. I don't know what the 4th day is. I don't know. I watched my live yesterday. I did the duck song Christmas version. Oh my God. So funny. You know me. I love my duck song. So we're going to talk about what occurred on day 2 of the trial. The state of Colorado is trying 2 fire paramedics for reckless manslaughter. And these guys are in big trouble. So I'm going to recap day 2 for you after I get another sip of my fa la 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 coffee. Now, I do have the Advent diamond painting drills thing to do, but I think what I'm going to do is just do this during my lives. So Wednesday, I'll open a few on Wednesday. Or should I just open one now? The present. I need to open one, right? Let's do it. I got to dump them all out because I don't know which one is number 3. I know this is 12. Hold on. I'll get to the trial. Trust me. 10. They're so cute, these little tags on here. Oh my gosh. I have to call the owner of this company and let her know that how much I appreciate all the work she put in to this. Of course, it's going to be the last one that... No, wait a minute. There's no number 3. Hold on. What happened? There's 4. Where's 3? 5. 10. 8. 11. 7. 9. There's no 3. I don't have a 3. What happened to 3? Okay. Oh, it's all the way down in the toe. 3. That's so cute. This one is like a little Santa Claus coming out of the chimney. I'm saving these because they're so darn cute. She put so much work into this, individually wrapping everything. Okay. Let's find out, what did we get? So this is from diamondpaintingdrills.com. There is a link down in the description if you want to go check this out. Now this Advent stocking thing, it's sold out, but she's got some great stocking stuffer ideas on her site, and they're on sale. Oh my God, I know what this is. You guys, bars. Oh, okay. This is for diamond painting. So here are some crystal bars, some emerald bars. They're green, of course, and red for Christmas. Oh, how cute. Red, white, and green. Oh my gosh. How adorable is this? I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. That's 3 days of Christmas. All right. So we're going to put this aside. I will put all this stuff back later into the stocking, but let's get into day 2 of this interesting case. Now, this is the case where this young man, 24-year-old Elijah McLean, is walking back from the convenience store and the Shell gas station where he had just purchased a couple of iced teas. Now, it's August, late August, 70 degrees, 10 o'clock at night. He is wearing a brown jacket and a ski mask, black ski mask. So somebody calls 911 and says, "This is really suspicious. You know, this just looks weird." And I'm betting that if you watch Friday's show, you'll see the footage from the Shell gas station. I'm thinking it's the guy in line behind him that might have called 911. I mean, I'm just guessing. because when he stopped by the police, we're going to learn during today's recap that he was 0.4 miles away from the Shell station in this grassy area. So he hadn't gotten very far. And he's listening to these headphones. He's got earbuds, but the earbuds, they're wireless. In other words, there's no wire between the earbuds and the listening device. It's Bluetooth, but they're connected to each other, which is what I would need because I would lose. Those earbuds that people wear, I'd lose those things. Anyway, he had the white earbuds that were connected with this thing that goes around the back of your neck. So on day 2, they had a high-ranking firefighter, paramedic guy come in, and he's the head of the training. And he comes in and he's on the stand for a very lengthy amount of time. But it's just, he's really, the prosecutor only put him on the stand because they wanted to get the training logs for the 2 officers into evidence. And because, one of their allegations is that they didn't have proper they weren't following their training. They had proper training, but they weren't following their training. So they get the training logs into evidence, but everybody's trying to use this guy sort of as an expert in what a paramedic should and shouldn't do. And the judge was not having it. He's like, no, he's not an expert. He's just here to, bring the paperwork, basically. But he did say, here's what I thought was interesting that came in through this witness. At the time that this occurred, the paramedics, the firefighters were not trained in how to work with the police. Now, they are now. They have classes now on how to coordinate with the police, on a scene. At the time, they weren't trained on that. I thought that's pretty key in this case. So the next witness is a pulmonary care a doctor who is an expert in pulmonary care and critical care medicine, also in determining brain death. This thing with Elijah, this whole event with Elijah McClain happened on a Saturday night, 10:30-ish, closer to 11. So he gets to the hospital, late Saturday, early Sunday morning. And on Monday, this particular doctor that's on the stand took over his care because by now he's in the ICU, and this is in this ICU setting. The attending doctor is this critical care medicine guy, so he took over his care on Monday, and then what they do is they work for 7 days on, and then they have 7 days off. So he worked for the next 7 days. So every Monday they get new doctors. So he was not the doctor when he came into the emergency room and was transferred to the ICU that Sunday morning. So he is the one that actually determined and signed Elijah McClain's death certificate. He determined his cause of death. Well, not the actual cause, but he determined that he was brain dead, and put on the death certificate the immediate cause of death. So not the actual cause, but the immediate cause of death. So, and I say that to say this, a lot of times on a death certificate, you'll see cardiac arrest. Well, everybody dies from a cardiac arrest because your heart stops. Your heart stops, you're dead. That's a cardiac arrest. And it's very non-specific about what caused the cardiac arrest. A lot of death certificates are like that. Doctors are lazy for the most part. Doctors do not like to sign death certificates. I can't tell you the number of times I'd have to chase down doctors as a risk manager to say, hey, I need you to sign this death certificate. And they'd be like, no, what me? They don't like to do that because they're afraid they're going to end up in court. But like this guy, anyway. So he comes in, and the first thing he's asked to do is explain brain function to the jury, and he talks about how you have cortical activity in the brain. That's what the part that makes us human. It's the part, that makes me creative. It's, I diamond paint, I watercolor, that's all the cortical functioning of my brain. I'm talking, I'm, dancing. That's all cortical function. Now, brainstem function is that's, and the cortical is called the higher level of functioning. The brainstem functioning is the lower level. A lot of that is um, sort of automatic, like breathing. That's a brainstem function. And if you have damage at the lower level of your brain, from the brainstem, then you're not going to breathe. And now you can override, but I don't need to tell my body to breathe, because that brainstem is functioning just fine. And I can say, I want to breathe. Take a deep breath, or you get what I'm saying? My brainstem is going to keep me breathing because there's nothing wrong with it. Anyway, so what he did to determine Elijah's brainstem function, along with there's a lot of stuff that goes into declaring someone brain dead. It's not just the tests that he's going to talk about, but it's also EEG, brain, the forms, waveforms. So they actually, what they did with Elijah is they had him on continuous brain monitoring to see if there was any function going on there, and there was not. It was just sort of, flat. But this is on Tuesday. So on Tuesday at 11-ish, he decides by this point, Elijah McClain has come into the emergency room following his cardiac arrest. As he's being put into the ambulance, they realize he's not breathing. They start the CPR. They bring him to the hospital. They actually get him intubated and put onto a respirator. And he's kept sedated, and he's kept what else? Sedated, and they gave him sedation. You have to and muscle relaxers. So what he did on this Tuesday is he stopped all the sedation, stopped all the muscle relaxers, and stopped the ventilator. In other words, you just disconnect the person. You disconnect them, and then you wait a few minutes. Now, if your brainstem is functioning, the CO2 is going to build up in your lungs. So at some point, that brainstem automatically is going to get you to take a breath. Well, with Elijah, it did not. They waited 4.5 minutes, and he never took a breath. And meanwhile, his CO2 was getting higher and higher and higher. So they put him back on the respirator, and then they did the same test 4 hours later, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Disconnected all the medicine that he was getting, and disconnected the respirator. Just take the thing off the tube, and then you wait. And they waited about 6 minutes this time. CO2's building up, and this doctor said usually when your CO2 gets to about a 40-ish level, you'll take a breath. The brainstem will cause you to take a breath. At 11, his CO2 built up to about 60, and then at the 3 o'clock, when they were waiting the 6 minutes, the CO2 built up to about 80, and he still did not take a breath. Because you got to breathe in that oxygen to get rid of that CO2. And he had no effort to breathe, none whatsoever. So that, coupled with the continuous EEG monitoring showing no brain activity, he was able to declare that he was brain dead. and his family made the decision to remove him from life support at that point. He had also had, during those first few days of hospitalization, a head CT, a CAT scan of his head, which showed severe injury. And this doctor explained it was due to lack of oxygen. It was they call it an anoxic brain injury, where there's no oxygen getting to the brain, and it causes that brainstem damage. So when this doctor explained, when he presented initially, what they did was they wanted to protect the brain function, because he had had this cardiac arrest, and they know that when you have this cardiac arrest, one of the things that can happen is this brain damage, this anoxic brain injury. So they get him on a respirator, they give him the muscle relaxers, they give him the sedation, and they did 36 hours of brain cooling. Because if your brain is basically, if they cool your brain, it stops any further damage from occurring, or that's the theory. So it was after this 36 hours. That's why he waited till Tuesday to do these tests. They let the brain come back to a normal temperature, stopped all the medicine, and that's when he did those tests. So he ultimately is the physician that signed the death certificate. But which is interesting, because he's going to have an autopsy anyway. Why, when somebody, especially when a young person dies unexpectedly, they have to have an autopsy. So, because this doctor's not able to say what the manner of death is, he can say cause of death. And he said the cause of death was this. What did he say? He said it was very likely that he had an aspiration event, which led to adult respiratory distress syndrome and cardiac arrest, which led to the brain damage. And this is why he died. His brain died. Interestingly enough, with this guy's testimony, he did have a cardiac arrest. We know he had a cardiac arrest, and he distinguished this from a heart attack. He explained to the jury, now, a cardiac arrest is not equivalent to a myocardial infarction or a heart attack. Heart attack is where portions of your heart are not functioning properly, and so there's something wrong with your heart. A cardiac arrest happens when you stop breathing, and you need that oxygen going to the heart, and the heart just stops. There's just flatline. There's no activity. That is a cardiac arrest. There's nothing wrong with the heart, except that you weren't giving it enough oxygen. So this is what he said happened to Elijah McClain, that he likely aspirated when he vomited, and we know that he had that cardiac arrest after they gave him the ketamine as they're getting him on the gurney. He's arresting, but he also had a cardiac arrest at the hospital 3 hours later. Early Sunday morning, his heart stops again, and they have to resuscitate him again. And he's already on, even though you're on all this stuff, it can still happen. So here's what I did not hear from this doctor. No mention. That word ketamine never gets mentioned. What role did it play in his death? Nor was it ever mentioned, was he on anything? Do we know? Was he, what did his drug screen show? Because the cops are telling the paramedics he's on something. We clearly heard that on the video that I showed on Friday. So no mention of the role of ketamine in this event. And I thought that was interesting. Very interesting. So the next person on the stand was an investigator for the Colorado Attorney General. So chronologically, what happens in this case is after Elijah passes away, the state attorney investigates, Colorado state attorney, and they determined we're not going to prosecute anybody. Well, then, there was the Black Lives Matters movement. There was this hue and cry about how this young black male, was killed by these police officers and paramedics and, killed. And so the attorney general for the state of Colorado did their own investigation, and they are the ones prosecuting this case, the attorney general. We saw that in South Carolina, the Murdaugh case, where the attorney general was trying the case. And that's because the state attorney had a conflict. But in this case, the state attorney had already said, no, we're not going to prosecute anybody. We don't think anybody's responsible for this. Well, the attorney general thought different. So that's when they indicted the officers and the paramedics. Now, the officers, we know, have already been tried. 2 were found not guilty. 1 was found guilty of a reckless homicide. So this investigator for the Attorney General's office, he was there to bring in evidence. So the first thing he brings in is that's how we know it's 0.4 miles where this event occurred. It's on the north side of the road in this grassy area, 0.4 miles from the Shell station. And then he introduced this demonstrative chart that he had done based on all the body cam footage, where the body cam footage was, where each person was on the different body cam footage, and what time their body cam footage stopped and started. It's a lot of work on his part. So that was shown to the jury. So the jury, when they're deliberating, if they want to see who saw what at what angle, they can use this chart, and it'll show them which video they need to watch. So I thought that was interesting. Then they introduced the clothing that Elijah McClain was wearing that day. But before you put that kind of evidence before a jury, you have to establish chain of custody. And this had a very interesting chain of custody, these clothes. First of all, they were cut off by the paramedics during the resuscitation efforts, and bagged and tagged, so to speak, by the police department, the Aurora Police Department, who kept that evidence for 9 months. When the state attorney investigated and decided that they weren't going to prosecute, those belongings were turned over to Elijah McClain's family, who never, by then, had a lawyer. So it really went to the lawyer. And they kept it in the way it was, bagged with all the stuff on it, until 2020. Now, this happened in 2019. When the Attorney General takes over, they get that evidence from the family's attorney. Yeah. So this was shown to the jury. The shirt that he was wearing and the pants. I didn't see the jacket. Also the mask and the ear pods that he had on. So the shirt and pants that were cut off of Elijah McClain had a red stain on them. And the pants also had another kind of a stain. I don't think I need to go into any detail there, but so the mask he was wearing also had a red stain. Now, here's where I have an issue. I would have been out of my chair objecting with this one. The person asking, one of the assistant attorney generals that was asking the question kept saying the emesis red stain, so the vomit. So apparently that red stain was vomit, not blood. But nobody has testified to that. And he kept saying, the emesis red stain. And I would have said, whoa, nobody has said that was emesis. Okay, first of all, nobody objected. Nobody. I thought, oh, that's interesting. So now the jury has heard it's not blood, this red stain. It's he was vomiting into the mask. So he had that mask on when he vomited, at least the first time. My understanding is he vomited more than once. So that's all we got from this investigator. Now he may be taking the stand again at other points in the investigation. So then the next witness is a critical care pulmonary expert, and this took up the last 2 hours of the afternoon, just putting out his credentials. He did not take care of Elijah McClain. He was hired as an expert to give an opinion on cause of and manner of death, or cause of death. Manner of death is like homicide, suicide, that kind of thing. So he was going to give an opinion as to cause of death. Now, based on his review of all the medical records, based on he's reviewed all the video, but and I'm going to talk more in detail about his opinions in tomorrow's show, but he did answer a question for me. One of the things that he reviewed was the toxicology screen from the hospital. And he said he had marijuana and ketamine. So was he on something? He was on marijuana. Now, I don't know that marijuana would cause, I'm not an expert on marijuana, would cause the kind of behavior the police were saying he was exhibiting. Marijuana usually makes you kind of mellow, not superhuman strength, because they were insinuating that he had taken some kind of drug that was caused him to have this superhuman strength and be uncooperative and out of control, and that doesn't sound like marijuana to me. That's just my opinion. And then this doctor said that it was clear to him that he had vomited into that mask, and that based on his review of the x-rays, that he had aspirated some of that vomit into his lungs. And then it goes way, and there was a lot of jury education with this expert. So I'm going to talk about this expert more tomorrow because he's still on the stand. So that's it for today. Now, what you want to see what I'm working on? Let me move the stocking. Let me move the presents. Working on the snowman, the girl snowman, or no, this is the snowman one. So here's what I have so far. That's her braid that I'm working on. So I'm past the halfway point. So that's how that's going. Guys, have a great Monday, and I will see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Come back tomorrow. You'll get the rest of this guy's testimony, and we'll see what else occurs in this trial. Have a lovely day. Bye, everybody.